And the campaign, for example, against the importation of the liquid petroleum, again, is a campaign where we ought to be involved in. But what we can't do, we cannot support in any shape or form a federal structure where we've got different organisations inside or even outside our party coming together as some kind of an alliance. If that ever happened, I would no longer want to be a member of the party. I think that this party's got a brilliant opportunity to take advantage of the disintegration of the organisations like Respect, which is split almost like an atom. We've got a tremendous opportunity to take advantage of what's happened in Scotland. And we've not been involved in any way, and nor should we be. Let them sort out their own internal problems in their own way. All we know is that all they said would happen has failed. And in Wales, of course, where I said before, in the wake of the last election that we had for the Assembly, I thought that election result, contrary to the majority view, was an extremely powerful and positive result. And it's interesting that we were able to pull into that election result votes which were as high or higher in areas where we didn't spend lots of money or didn't spend lots of leaflets or campaigns or whatever, as we did where we did spend a lot of money. In other words, we've got to recognise that we're in a different age and we're in a different ball game, so to speak. But there's one thing I would like to draw to your attention, and then I'm going to close. There's an election taking place in America, and I don't know how many people are following it, but I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating because, in spite of all the technology, all the electronic devices, all the YouTubes and their tubes, they've gone back to the soapbox. All three candidates. One for the Republicans and two for the Democrats. The two Democrat candidates are actually now on the stump, on soapbox, in factories, in shipyards, in mining areas, all over the country. They're speaking in an old-fashioned way. And the irony is that they're forcing the media to follow them and report the news in a way that's getting to a mass audience. And you know, all too often we fall for this nonsense of following the trend. When people write to me, like the Daily Express has done in the last few days, don't really know what's happened to me and would like to report a little bit on my background. Well, I'm going to reply to it actually. And I'm going to say, the reason that you don't know what's been happening to me is because you didn't attend the mass rally in Belfast organised by the Belfast Trades Council, which attracted 700 people. The mass rally in Belfast organised by Sinn Féin, which attracted 800 people. The mass meetings that we had in Wales at Narberth, Swansea and Cardiff, all which were full, but which your newspaper, in common with others, chose not to cover. And why don't you put your questions to the BBC and ITV and to your own papers as to why they don't cover the events where we're pulling audiences in which are 10 times bigger than the audiences of the conferences or meetings that you are covering? You know, and I think it's an important issue. The other thing, and the fatter thing I suppose I would say, is this. I don't object to speaking at rallies, but I will lay down principles for them. People will continually write and say, will Arthur Scargill do this at this rally or whatever? If, for example, I get a direct approach from, say, the GMB, I'll accept it. The Prison Officers Association asked me to speak to their NEC, and I agreed, and I spoke. they actually then at the same meeting invited me as a guest and speaker to their conference, an invitation which seems to have been withdrawn. And I'm being pestered by members of our party as to why I won't do a fringe meeting. Well, I would have thought that the answer's simple. Why on earth should I go and do a fringe meeting, having been told, first of all, I'm going to be invited to the main meeting? And that's not a prima donna approach, it's a common sense approach. Because, you know, something has persuaded them not to carry through that original decision. I spoke at the Bakers Union conference, and that was a success. But the most interesting successes have been where our party have organised their own public meetings. But there are two failings. One, we don't call them in all parts of Britain. I can't remember the last time I spoke in Lancashire. I can't remember the last time I spoke in London, apart from the one that I organised together with Margaret Sharkey. I can't remember the last time I was able to speak in the Midlands to an SLP rally, not the Indian Workers Association.
10th anniversary.
Well, yeah, but the 10th anniversary was in 2006, 2008.
Well, I'm just reminding you the date.
Yes, well, I know the date, and I know the date in Lancashire, and I know that, and even more important, in Yorkshire. You know, and we're organising a meeting with Ricky Tomlinson and myself to speak in Barnsley, and I'm trying to get Ricky to speak in Bradford, because Dr. Chris Butler, who is on the government's commission for HIV and is a leading consultant in a Bradford hospital, who went out of our parties, rejoined and said, biggest mistake of my life, I should never have left our party, this party, I want to rejoin, is rejoined. And you know, there are people actually joining the party, and there are people coming along to events. You're able to publish it, you're able to promote it, and people can speak on a whole range of different subjects, whether it be desalination of seawater, whether it be nuclear power, which I'm passionately involved in and interested in, and I'm talking about going to do a meeting down in Cornwall shortly. The thing is that these are all right, but they're one-offs, and there's no follow-up. And if there isn't a follow-up, we'll not build a party. If there's a follow-up, we'll build the party. And that doesn't mean in individual branches all the time. Branches can meet. I'm telling you this. I challenge anybody in this room, or anywhere else. The trade union movement hold branch meetings, and at some of them, if you get 5, 6, 7 or 8 at a trade union branch meeting where they've got 1,000 members at that unit, you're lucky. But that doesn't mean there isn't the necessity to call the meeting. The meeting takes place, people know it takes place, you can advertise it, you can report it. But it's got to be an ongoing thing. Now, you may think it's like a long playing record with me about public meetings and private meetings, branch meetings. And yes, it is. Because I can't think of any other way of building this party other than taking our message out in our way. Because we're not going to get an opportunity to go on television every week or on radio every week. And when they do slip up and invite us like they did in Wales and go on for an hour, it shocked them far more than it shocked us. Because what happened is the feedback was incredible. And we were getting letters from all over the place about what we'd said and done. The feedback in Ireland we didn't need to tell you about because it was there. The two that we did. Those are on one plane. What I'm talking about is the old style of campaigning. And if Keir Hardie and others could do it, if Harry Pollitt and them could do it, they always did it, but they always followed it up.